There are some things you can do that will begin to change the financial situation of your church.
Hey, thanks for clicking on that link and joining us today. We've got Pastor Phil on the couch again. If you missed episode 1, go back and check it out. Pastor Phil is the superintendent of the District Council of Illinois of the Assemblies of God, and been in that position since 2012. Pastor Phil, once again, thanks for your incredible leadership as a spiritual shepherd and also as just great financial leadership for the district. And over the years, I know how passionate you are about equipping both pastors and churches to be good financial stewards. So we're going to spend a few minutes talking about some things that churches can do to be good stewards of their finances. So if you don't have a notebook and a pen, stop the video right now, grab it, because you're going to want to take some notes. We had some really good stuff in our first conversation, and so go back and check that out if you haven't. But let's talk about churches now, Pastor Phil. You gave us so much good stuff for personal finances. What are some things churches can do? What are some tools that they need to utilize just to manage their finances well?
Yeah. Dave, so I've pastored a couple of different churches. I've been on staff at one church and then pastored two. I've never been at a church that when I came, they said, we got all the money we'll ever need. It just doesn't happen.
No.
And yet, God, if a church is faithful, and I think in 3 areas. If they're faithful to work hard, if they're faithful to budget, to have the discipline to practice that, and if they're faithful in their generosity and their missions giving, I believe God will supply the finances that church has needed. And as you begin to do that, you begin to see the momentum flow. And there are some wise things that a church can do. I like to think of it as your head, your hands, and your heart.
I like that.
If you have this in your head, this discipline to budget, to take care of your expenditures, and to keep a handle on it, to be a good steward.
Right.
I'm stewarding the Lord's money. The money that this church has is the Lord's. So I want to be a good steward of it. I want to work hard. I want to make sure that we're doing everything we can. But then I want to have the heart of generosity. So there are some things that a church can do to help them be in a place where God can prosper them. Right.
You know, you said one of my favorite words there, and that's budgets.
Yeah.
I am a strong believer in budgets. And it always surprises me, YourChurchAdmin deals with churches all over the country. The amount of churches that do not utilize a budget. That is so important. What are some advice that you might have about creating and utilizing budgets?
You know, a lot of churches live like the families in their church, from paycheck to paycheck, from Sunday to Sunday. A lot of pastors are at their altar on Monday morning praying, "Oh God, send us more money." Yeah. So I think that if a church makes their budget planning a part of their calendar planning. So there's just a couple of things that you can do. The first Tuesday of every month. So I don't do it on Monday because Monday is right after Sunday. I want to be encouraged. So the first Tuesday after the last Sunday, take a look at where you were this last month. Take a look. Was your income where you budgeted? Was your expenses in line with what you budgeted for them to be? What are the trends? Is your church the last 3 or 4 months? Is it growing financially? Has it been beating budget? So it just needs to be a part. Your first Tuesday after the last Sunday, take a look at the last month budget. Did you get that budget in line? Number 2, then take a look the first Tuesday of April, of July, of October, and then January again. What did you do for the last quarter? And taking a look at those trends. I'll never forget, Dave, the first church that I pastored, I didn't have a budget my first couple of years. And every year I would be in March going, this is awesome. Yeah. We have more money in the checking account than we've ever had. Right. And for the first 2 or 3 years, it always took me by surprise that we received an insurance bill the third week of March.
Right.
And it was like, there goes all of our money. But if I learned to budget, and then I began to see, hey, I've got a bill that's coming up. So it needs to be a part of your monthly and your quarterly. But probably most importantly, right now, this is the season, September, October, November, for every church to begin to plan their budget for 2026. So in September, you ask your youth department, your small groups leader, you ask your women's ministries, all of the different departments of your church, I need to know what your budget is going to be for this next year. You compile all of that in September. In October, you begin to put it together. Well, all of a sudden you see that, in July, you've got the men wanting to go on a fishing trip to Canada.
Right.
All of your youth are wanting to go to youth camp. Your ladies, while their husbands are doing a camping, the ladies are going to Branson. All of a sudden you see this, man, in July, we're going to have some massive expenses. So you just say, hey, ladies, why don't you go in June? Fellas, why don't you go in August? And we'll send our youth to camp here in July. Planning those kinds of things. So getting the information in September, in October, putting it all together and creating the budget, that gives you time in the month of November to pray over it.
Right.
To see what else God would begin to say to you, and it gives you time to begin to plan, where are we going to be generous? Where are we going to fulfill the mission that God is giving us? And so November, you set it. December, you celebrate the birth of Christ, and in January, you put it into motion. So making your budget a part of calendar planning is a huge part of having a budget. Most people go, well, I don't know where to start. Well, you go to last year's checkbook.
Right.
What did I spend last year? You go to last year's offering sheets. What did we bring in January? What did we spend? That's a great place to start for a budget. What you spent last year, you'll spend this year. Maybe add 2% or 3% for inflation.
Yeah. A big mistake I see churches make is, let's say, well, we're just going to use last year's budget again. That's a problem, isn't it? You can't just carbon copy, the budget over. And the other one is they don't plan for big unexpected expenses. Your air conditioners are going to go out, your water heater's going to blow up. How do you budget for those things?
Well, it's one of those deals that you have a contingency. So I like to flip houses. That's my hobby. And one of the things I do when I buy a house to flip is I set a 10% contingency fund right at the very beginning, because I know, my sewer line might need to be replaced, or I might develop a leak in the roof, or the electrician might find some knob and tube wiring in the house that I didn't see during the inspection. So setting aside a contingency fund month after month after month and developing that, every church needs a 3 to 6 month emergency fund, just like your families do. So you put in a contingency every month until you reach that 3 to 6 month of income emergency fund. And then that's there for those emergency moments.
Yeah, I think sometimes pastors struggle with, well, we've got this money setting, it's not doing anything. We could be giving it to missions, or, buying stuff for the children's ministry, but you really don't need that money till you need it.
Right.
So it's important that it's there. Any other little pieces that we should consider when we're preparing our budgets, or any more about the budget process?
Yeah. So there are 3 components to your investment, to your budget. There's income, expense, and investment. So, and I have some key words that I use for those. So when you're planning your income, that's where you want faith and vision to begin to kind of lead the way in that moment. You need to begin, as a part of your calendar planning, to think, when am I going to speak on giving? So many pastors are afraid they've bought into this ideology that that's all churches want is your money. No, we want our people to be financially healthy. And a part of that is being a good steward and being obedient to God. So when am I going to preach on it? When am I going to preach on this area? What kind of a campaign am I going to use? How am I going to incorporate online and automated giving?
Yeah.
Such a powerful tool. So you use faith and vision to set your income. For your expenses, you want to use discipline and wisdom. Because if I said, hey, here's what we're going to do expenditure-wise, God has given us wisdom for a purpose, and God speaks so highly of discipline. That's what we use to determine our expenses that we're going to spend. Maybe add some financially wise members of your church to your expense team. Where are we going to spend? Where are we going to do all of this that we want to do? I've seen churches. I've seen both sides. A church that has a roof that's leaking, and they've set out 100 water buckets. And it's like, no, we're saving, for the rainy day. Well, dude, this is the rainy day. And then those churches that, are like, what we need is we need a massive overhang for people. So we're going to tear up this part of our parking lot, or we're going to put an overhang in, or we're going to have a 4-lane. Okay, maybe we don't need a 4-lane overhang for people to pull up. So that expense is where you want to use wisdom and discipline. The more voices, especially on the expense side, is such a powerful tool for you to use. So you have to be content and disciplined, using wisdom in your expenses. The third one is, I think, where most people don't, where they miss it. I call that the investment side. And when we think of investments, we think of, okay, that money that I'm setting aside. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, where are you going to invest in your community? Where are you going to invest in ministry? Where are you going to invest kingdom-wise? What are you going to do for missions? Where will your generosity show up? Beginning to plan for your investment mindset, your generosity into the kingdom of God, is such a powerful part of this plan. It's not just income and expense, but it's where we're going to invest in the kingdom. That pays dividends. Yeah,
I love that. And as I'm thinking about budgets, I think about probably the most common question we get at YourChurchAdmin when we help churches with their budget, and maybe you can offer some advice on, is there what percentage of growth in income should we use? Last year, this amount came in. We feel like the church is growing, it's moving forward. But we're not sure what percentage to increase our budget in that area, because they're afraid they're going to be too aggressive, and then have budget issues. So any advice there?
Take a look at your trends. So if in 2024 our January income was here and our January 25 income was here, I have no problem with saying our June or our January 26 income is going to be here. I'm following the trend of where it's going. And what am I doing to increase our income? Have we began to move toward online giving? Have we begun to automate our online giving? And just taking a look at some of those things will help you begin to set the trends. And when you see those trends and you begin to step into them, I think you're going to be okay.
Yeah, I like that. So it sounds like one of the most important things you can do, one of the keys to a good, healthy church financially, is just smart budgeting. And if you're not doing it, start. I love that, how you compared it to as living paycheck to paycheck, because that's exactly what it is. So there's a couple of other things that I jot down that I've heard you say before. Maybe you can talk about this a little bit. You talked about hard work, wise discipline, and generous giving.
It is the head, the hand, and the heart. So think of it this way, if you will. My head is where my expenditures are going to be.
Right.
Disciplined.
Right.
I'm keeping a control of that. My hands are my hard work. That's where I'm going to begin to work, to begin to do online giving, automated giving, where I'm going to begin to do some work. We'll talk here in just a moment about creating a financial culture in your church. That's the hard work. But that's where some faith and vision are going to begin to take place. The heart is the spirit of generosity. This place where it says that I'm a steward, our church is a steward of what God has given us. So we're going to invest it into the kingdom of God. I'm not going to hoard. I'm going to keep a 3 to 6 month emergency fund because that's wisdom. But beyond that, I'm going to invest in the kingdom of God and see what God's going to do with casting my bread upon the water and see what's going to happen there. So that's how I kind of think it all ties together. Yeah.
Now, you just mentioned the financial culture. Yeah. What is that?
Every church has a financial culture, a financial DNA. And you go, well, we don't talk about finances in our church. That's part of your DNA. You have a silent culture about finances. There are churches that have a scarcity. We'll never have enough. We just we can't do this. Every board meeting asks this question: what will that cost? Can we afford that? Yeah. There is a financial culture that every church has. It's a part of their DNA. And I think that the leadership of a church can change and create a healthy financial DNA, a healthy financial culture in their church. There's some things you can do that will begin to change the financial situation of your church.
So what types of things can you do?
Number one, be transparent. Yeah. Be transparent with your finances. A lot of churches will have an annual financial business report, but it's so scarce, and there's really no transparency to where our finances went. I would encourage you to maybe once a quarter just have a 10-minute after-service financial report, or once every 6 months do a Wednesday evening 15, 20-minute, hey, here's what it's going to be for this next year. Here's our trends. Here's what's happening. Because every church has ups and downs. Be transparent with it. What happened in COVID, Dave? So many churches were like, oh my goodness, we won't be able to take offerings. But the people giving went way up at the start of COVID. Why? Because the people said, man, there's a need. Right. And they gave. And finances dramatically increased at the start of COVID. So be transparent. Be transparent with what came in, what went out. Be transparent with your safety. Hey, we want everybody in the church to know we have a rotating schedule of people who count the finances. None of them are related. Our finances are never held by just one person. Two people have to sign here. Being transparent about all of that is a really powerful thing. And then secondly, talk about money. Encourage giving through biblical teaching and transparency. Here's one of the things that I love. Educate your people about financial health and what the Bible says about it. If your people are financially healthy, the church is going to be financially healthy. And so I just think that if we would really begin to help our own people with their own financial situation, talk about finances. Finances are one of the things God uses to test us with. So why do we want to be silent about it? Help our people to understand financial health. Help them to understand that giving is better than receiving. Help them to understand that God takes what we give as a seed to return it to us. Don't go crazy. Don't be, this mindset of, hey, you're going to be rich. That's not it. I want to be healthy. Right. Far more than I want to be wealthy. Yeah, really good stuff. I hear pastors say this sometimes, and it drives me a little crazy personally, but what do you say to pastors who say, hey, I don't want anything to do with the finances. I don't want to know. That's not my thing. I don't feel like
I should have access to that. What do you say to those pastors?
Yeah, and I understand the mindset, because what you're really saying is, I don't want the people in my church to think that I would treat someone who's wealthy different than I would treat somebody else. They're kind of following through with the book of James, and talking about this. I would say this, though, as a pastor, finances are one of the indicators of the health of your church. I want a healthy church, so I'm going to be involved in that.
Yeah.
I'm going to say to some of the people, if you ever see me and you're questioning that I am giving others what they shouldn't have, you call me on it, ask me about it. I'm fine with that, but I'm going to be involved in the finances of our church. I'm the first layer of protection for our church.
Right.
So.
Yeah, very good. Good stuff. Well, Pastor Phil, I think this has been great. I really appreciate this sound advice for both pastors and their personal finances and for churches. I hope this has been a blessing to you who've watched it. Don't forget, go back and watch episode 1 about personal finances. And Your Church Admin is a ministry of the Illinois District Council. We want to help you be a good steward. We want to help your church. We want to help you. Reach out if we can serve you in any way. And again, follow us on social media. We create great content like this. And Pastor Phil has graciously offered to provide us with some blog posts and some more great just pieces of his wisdom. So don't miss out on that. And once again, thank you for joining us today.